What is going on, AFC East Roundtable? We are here live on the Jets Roundtable with my buddy and the co-host with me here on the Jets Roundtable, Mr. Matt O'Leary. Matt, we did not do the Jets Roundtable last week, and I feel like we've been through, I can't even put into words how much has happened in the Jets world since the last we spoke. Like, it feels like there's been 2 months worth of material for us to cover. So this is going to be a jam-packed show with you and I. We got to catch up on a lot of things. Jets on a 3-game losing streak. They fire Saleh, elevate Todd Downing. Oh, Hassan Ridge fired his agent. No, wait, his agent fired him. Now he has a new agent. Oh, the Jets just traded for Davante Adams. Oh, Mike Williams. Matt, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. So shout out to BetUS for powering today's show as usual. We'll get into BetUS later on in the show. Matt, welcome back to the Jets Roundtable. How you doing, bro?
Excited to be back. As you hit on, there was a lot that has happened in the last couple of weeks. We could be here for probably 4 hours breaking it all down. But I was telling you off air before we got started, the Davante Adams trade helped me like 10%. I wish I was more excited about the Devonte Adams trade yesterday. Like, I love it, and I'm happy that he's here. But the vibes of the trade after a disgusting 23-20 loss just didn't hit the same as what I was hoping it would.
I agree. And I tweeted out last week, if the Jets beat the Bills, I'm 100%, almost 99.99% chance, in my opinion, they're trading for Davante Adams. If they lose, I don't know if they will still pull the trigger. Then we find out, Matt, the deal was pretty much done before kickoff, which is why he was in the building the morning of yesterday. So the Jets had the deal worked out. The details are in. 2025 conditional third-round pick, and we're hoping it turns into a second-round pick, Matt, because if that does turn into a second-round pick, that means the Jets were in the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, or Davante Adams is an all-pro. So I think Jets fans should be root to turn that into a second-round pick. And let me remind everybody that Joe Douglas traded a 2024 fourth-round pick for a 2025 third-round pick, which eventually Joe Douglas flipped for Davante Adams. So what's your thoughts? I know that the loss on Monday night does not help us, does not add a lot of hype around this trade, but what's your thoughts now? Davante Adams officially a Jet, wearing number 17. Malachi goes to number 14, and he's expected to make his Jets debut this week.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him in green and white. I know, he's not in his prime anymore, but even still not in his prime, he's a top, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, 10, 15 receiver in the NFL, still an elite level route runner. And I think we've seen it with Allen Lazard, how much it matters to have that connection with Aaron Rodgers. As frustrating as Allen Lazard is with the drops, and believe me, it is very frustrating. No Jet fan will argue that. There's a moment or two every game where he makes an unbelievable play just because of him and Rodgers are on the same page. Rodgers knows where he's going to be. And Adams is 10 times the receiver that Allen Lazard is. So that's only going to be amplified. I know some are worried about what this means for Garrett Wilson now. Where does he just lose all the targets, or, what does this mean for him? I don't view it that way. I think this helps Garrett Wilson. One, because how do you cover both of them? That's a very tough ask for these teams. But number two, I think Davante Adams is the perfect kind of receiver for Garrett Wilson to learn from. Like I said, I think he's an elite route runner. And if I was Garrett, I would just want to, pin myself next to him and soak up as much knowledge as humanly possible and try to develop that into my game as well. So I'm excited to see his impact on the field for the Jets and also his impact on Garrett Wilson too.
I also think there's another player that is going to get impacted by this in a positive light, Matt. I agree with everything you said about Garrett Wilson, but I also think this is going to help the run game. I think Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, this is going to help them out, because what we've seen the defenses do so far this season, Matt, is very simple. I mean, they load up the box and then they double team Garrett Wilson. And that's been the philosophy of defenses that's worked for the most part. Now, if you load up the box and double team Davante, that frees up Garrett one-on-one. Okay, so we can't load up the box. So let's drop the linebackers back in coverage. We have to worry about Garrett and Davante. We don't want to get beat over our heads. What does that do? That lightens the box for Breece Hall. So I think that this really adds a new dimension, a new balance effort to this team, where I don't think it's just going to benefit Garrett. I think this could be the opportunity for the offensive line and this run game to finally get figured out. I mean, we saw Breece get 6.3 yards per carry, over 100 yards last game, so he's starting to get rhythm. Do you think the addition of Davante is going to help out this run game?
Yeah, I do. I think that's a really great point to bring up. And like you said, defenses can't stack the box against you. In that case with those two wide receivers, or they can't double team Garrett Wilson like they were doing early on in the year. And I loved what I saw out of Breece Hall against the Buffalo Bills. He went for almost 170 all-purpose yards, by far his best game of the year. He started to look like the Breece Hall that, we saw on tape the last 2 years, and, it was overdue. Unfortunately, he got off to a really slow start. I don't think he was beyond criticism, but I was a little frustrated with some of the fan base and how quickly it felt like they bailed on both Garrett Wilson.
Oh, I hate that.
Right. Like, and again, that's not to say like you have to pump their tires all the time and you can't be critical of them. I think, anyone could point out that, early on this year, both Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall needed to be better. But there was like X amount of games, however much in their first 2 years, where we saw them play at a high level. Just because the first 4 or 5 didn't really go their way, was just a little bit frustrating for me. So I want to see Breece Hall build off of that performance and continue to stack good games, which I think is absolutely on the table. And another big part of it too, it was a change that we haven't talked about yet. I thought Todd Downing did an awesome job. He used motion over 70% of the time. Before that, in the first 5 weeks of the year, they were somewhere in the 40s. I believe it was 46.5%, which was bottom 3 in the league. And 70, whatever it was 7th, I believe, in the NFL this past week. So a massive, massive difference. And I think, Downing, it looks like, to me, a clear upgrade over Nathaniel Hackett, which is going to have a big impact too.
Yeah, I think, speaking on Todd Downing, it was refreshing to see I saw a stat that Fox posted, Matt, of the top 5 passing yards this week, top 5 receiving yards this week, top 5 rushing yards this week. Rodgers was top 5. Breece was top 5 in rushing. And we had 2 receivers in the top 5 in receiving. And we scored 20 points. 20 points. So I think it's really comes down to a special teams failure and lack of red zone efficiency. That's the 2 things. And penalties, of course. I mean, Braylon Allen scores a touchdown. There's a phantom hold on Tyron Smith. You talk about that holding on Joe Tippmann at the end of the game that would have gave Breece Hall a first down, that maybe the Jets could have went out there, either tied the game or, won it. So a lot of issues that needs to get cleaned up that Davante Adams is not going to mask. But let's get into actually some updated news real time. Jeff Ulbrich is speaking with the media right now, and he has an injury update, which I have not heard yet. So I want to actually hear this, Matt, because I need to know where our guys are at in terms of injuries. So let's hear from Coach Brick.
All right, from an injury standpoint, Michael Carter with the back still will not participate. DJ Reed with the groin will not participate as well. Morgan Moses with the knee. Tyron, same as. Aaron Rodgers, the ankle. Conklin, the hip. No worse for the wear from last week. Will McDonald with a shoulder. Chaz has a heel that he had this past week. And Devonte Adams had the hamstring. Okay.
So all those guys will not.
All right, from an injury standpoint.
Matt, does that mean they're all limited or we're...
Yeah, we didn't get the full answer. They clipped it. Come on, guys.
What the heck is that? I mean, everyone's injured?
Was that from the Jets or SNY Jets?
The Jets.
Okay, yeah, they do that sometimes, man. They clip it right when it gets to the good part, which is a little frustrating.
I think those are the limited people he mentioned. He said Carter not practicing, DJ Reed not practicing, and then he went on the list of everybody that I'm assuming it's limited.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assumption. I'm a little bit worried about DJ Reed, to be honest with you, with that groin injury, because he's been playing at such a high level, and I know he was penalized a couple times in that game against the Bills. The one where the ball went way out of bounds, I don't know how that's possibly catchable. That should not have been defensive pass interference if it's an uncatchable ball. Yeah, and then, by the way, like, it wasn't just the calls against the Jets. There were 22 penalties in total, 11 each for both the Jets and the Bills. So the officiating was horrible on both sides, but it is just another frustrating thing. But anyway, back to Reed. He's been one of their best defensive players the entire season, and they need him, especially without Reed and Michael Carter. I know they have depth there. They like Brandon Echols. They drafted Quantez Stigers, but with all due respect to those guys, they're not at the same level as, a Reed or a Michael Carter. So I'm hoping that this injury doesn't last too many weeks here, because I don't know how long he could survive without him.
Yeah, and Brandon Echols is the next man up, who's definitely played pretty well whenever his name is called. So it seems like DJ Reed is going to be out in this game with a groin. He's not on the IR, which is a positive. But we also have to mention Chuck Clark has been on the IR. So our secondary is all of a sudden really banged up, Matt. We have DJ Reed out, Michael Carter the second out, Chuck Clark out. Those are 3 starters. So now we got Ashton Davis subbing in for Chuck Clark, who had a bad game. We have Brennan Eccles subbing in, and then I think Isaiah Oliver is going to be in the slot. And then we have number 35 also getting on the field. What's his name again?
Jalen Mills.
Yeah, that was Jalen Mills, 35? That got on the field?
He played a handful of snaps this last game. I thought he was wearing 35. Maybe I'm wrong.
There's a guy on the Jets that...
It was Jalen Mills. He played like 9 snaps in this game.
Jalen Mills is 35?
Yes.
Okay, I missed that because I was at the game, and I watched number 35 run onto the field. And I'm like saying a TD, and then I'm like, who the heck is 35? How do I not know who that is? I didn't know I guess they missed it. I was so busy planning for the event. They elevated him.
They elevated him before the game, and he played 9 snaps. So it's not like he played a ton. So it could totally go under the radar why you didn't notice him. And I had to look it up too. And I was like 35, or they said it on the broadcast rather, that it was Jalen Mills. But when I just saw, I was like, that's not a number that I'm used to seeing out on defense. Who is that? But yeah, I think they're going to have to rely on Jalen Mills, to be honest with you, because what I saw from Ashton Davis just wasn't good enough. He was a complete liability in this game, in both the run game and in coverage. He was getting picked on. So I would rather go the veteran route. I know that Mills isn't, someone who's, maybe the player he was, 4 or 5 years ago, but I just feel a little bit more comfortable, I think, with him out there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing. The one thing I do know is that this Jets team, even with a banged up secondary, we have a coaching staff that I think that they can get the most out of. Remember that Eagles game last year, Sauce and Reed both out, and we had guys, no names, come in there and make some plays. So let's hear from Ulbrich about what his thoughts of Davante Adams and what he's going to bring to this team.
Yeah, it's a really cool problem to have, and it's going to give us an opportunity to have more flexibility with where we move these guys around. And sometimes it'll be based upon the route concept, sometimes the matchups, but it gives us a lot of freedom to play around with where these guys line and just make sure we're just moving the target, as often as we can.
How much have you faced them in your career when they were in Green Bay?
Too many times. Yeah, I mean, we faced them last year in Vegas, and Devonte at least, and
but I mean the two of them together.
Yeah, again, too many times. That COVID year was, he questioned my love for football that day. They did an amazing job. Their connection and their chemistry between the two of those guys is so unique. They spent so much time together, for one, but for two, they're both like high football IQ guys that really can take their connection to another space.
And then Ulbrich also talks about the locker room presence of Davante.
Obviously the team knows who he is, and just integrating him as fast as possible into everything that we do. Fortunately, I've never met him prior to him coming in yesterday, and what an amazing human being. You never know what a superstar is going to be like. Sometimes, a little weird sometimes, and not at all. Just the humility I felt on him, the great teammate I felt on, the love for football. I'm so excited to add this guy to our not just to the field as a player, but to the locker room from a culture standpoint.
So that's Coach Brick talking about Davante Adams. I mean, the chemistry between him and Aaron is what's getting us excited. The overall presence in the locker room is going to be great. What's your thoughts of what Coach Brick had to say about Davante coming through?
Yeah, I agree with him. I think it is going to make a really big impact. And I know that in any video we put out or anything we do covering this team, you get the pushback of, can Davante Adams block for Aaron Rodgers? Can he play on the defensive line? Can he kick field goals? And look, there are still going to be issues with this team. Davante Adams doesn't fix everything, but I think he raises both the floor and the ceiling of this offense. And, I think it's going to be, they'll get to a point where the offense isn't an issue. I know against Minnesota and Denver, it was very clear that the offense was the issue. I didn't feel like that was the case against the Buffalo Bills. Yes, they didn't convert enough in the red zone, but I thought a lot of that was the self-inflicted wounds. You missed 2 field goals that could have had you up to 26 points right there, and you had a touchdown taken off the board because your Hall of Fame left tackle had a holding penalty, and it was a borderline penalty. It probably shouldn't have been called, but it's just a little frustrating when you go out in free agency, you bring in this guy who's supposed to be an elite level player still at this point in his career, and has really struggled through the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, well said, man. I'm kind of curious your thoughts of Jeff Ulbrich, right? Saleh's fired. We didn't really get to talk about it together. We both obviously spoke about it individually. But like, what was your reaction when the Jets fired Saleh? Did that come to a shock to you, the timing of it? And now fast forward to today, how do you feel about Jeff Ulbrich being the interim head coach for the season?
Yeah, it definitely came as a surprise to me when they pulled the trigger on it and made the move. I was glad that they did it maybe a little bit too early than too late. I think if they waited, an extra week or two, it would have been too far gone. I think they were just trying to spark this team. And for Ulbrich, it feels like he's saying all the right things. So right now, I don't really blame the loss on him in particular on Monday night there. Things that I wanted to see was more aggressive approach. And I think we got that. I think they were more aggressive in this game. They tried a lot of new things on offense, and it really worked. So just him being open to doing new things was, for me, a really positive sign. And, he's a defensive coach. So a lot of people are going to say, well, what does that really change from going from Saleh to Ulbrich? Well, if his mindset's a little bit more aggressive, that's going to rub off on the rest of the team and how they call plays offensively. And I think we got that on Monday.
And I also think a sense of accountability is the biggest change that I think Woody Johnson wanted. And I have mixed feelings about Woody. I've always have. But the one thing I've noticed about Woody Johnson in these last 10 days or so is he is doing everything he can. I mean, he's going all. Firing Saleh at the time that he did was definitely an interesting decision. But what's your thoughts of the owner, Woody Johnson? We heard from him saying that he's doing everything in his possible power. They're putting all their chips right now, Matt. They're putting all their chips. They're mortgaging the future. You saw the restructured contract with Davante. They added void years, which means we're going to be paying Davante when he's not a Jet. There's already void years with Aaron Rodgers. We're going to be paying Rodgers when he's not a Jet. How do you feel about Woody Johnson putting all of the assets, all of the chips into this season with Aaron Rodgers?
I think that I'm going to give him credit. I'm not usually the biggest Woody Johnson fan, but I think it's the right decision when you go out and acquire a quarterback in his late 30s who's now 40 years old. Like, you have to go for it. There can't be any half measures. If you go 1 foot in, 1 foot out, that's how you get burned. And I felt that was the approach last year when they didn't get a backup quarterback and then didn't make a move for a quarterback at some point during the year. And with just some of the roster decisions, and I think they did a better job of that this year. But I got to give Woody credit. I think it's the right call to, push the chips to the table and try to end this streak and try to make some noise in the playoffs. They obviously have a long way to go at 2-4. My favorite Woody quote of the day came yesterday when he said, "Thinking is overrated." I thought that was just an electrifying quote.
And what did he mean by that?
I don't know.
Thinking is overrated. You just got to act. Don't think, just do. I guess that's what he meant. I have no idea.
Yeah, shoot from the hip.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not the biggest Woody Johnson fan. I never have been. But if this team can actually figure out a way to go on a run, then I will give Woody Johnson his credit because he put the hammer down. He is also just not, allowing this team to spiral. He's not just going to let Robert Saleh go out there on the podium and be like, we got to be better. And then next week is the same thing. We got to be better. I was getting tired of the same redundant nonsense from Saleh. I love Saleh as a human being, but it's been obvious that he's just not the guy for the job. We'll see what Jeff Ulbrich can do from now on out. When it comes to Davante Adams, the addition, like you mentioned earlier, Matt, he's not going to fix the penalties. He's not going to fix the offensive line blocking for Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to fix us against the run. But what that does do, I think, which is a big issue with this offense, is red zone efficiency. Do you think that the red zone efficiency is going to have an increase with the addition of Davante Adams? And how early do we expect the Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers connection to click? Is it going to be one of those things where Davante goes out there and he gets 5 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown? Is it going to be more like a wait and see? Do we have to let them get their chemistry back? Or do you think it's going to be, they're back together? And look at this, Rodgers and 17 are back and lighting up the NFL. Because they have been, as you know, man, and everybody knows, the best quarterback wide receiver duo we've ever seen. And the stats back it up.
Yeah, I think it's like riding a bicycle. I don't think you forget how to do it. I think they're on the same page immediately. My only question is how much he's implemented. Obviously he hasn't played in the last 3 weeks because of the hamstring. So if the snap percentages are down, maybe that's the only thing that doesn't keep that, or that does keep him from having a huge game. But I think they're going to go to him early and often. Like I said, he's a really good route runner. It's the same verbiage and the same offense that they ran in Green Bay. I think he's going to be able to come in and hit the ground running. This isn't something that I think takes 3 weeks to get them on the same page.
So Garrett Wilson's on pace to have a phenomenal season statistically. Are we going to see a decrease in Garrett Wilson's stats? I know that he's been honestly, I think he actually leads the NFL in targets, Garrett Wilson. That's obviously going to change. But when it comes to receptions and yards and touchdowns, starting today, say from week 7 to week 17, is Davante Adams going to lead over Garrett Wilson in catches, yards, and touchdowns? Or there's going to be more even, or even Garrett Wilson going to have more? What do you think about that? Or is Al Lazard going to have more? Because he's like, when are we going to give this guy credit? Because he's the most polarizing player. I can't stand him.
Yeah, it's Lazard is so frustrating because he makes like the unbelievable throw and catch that Rodgers had to him at the middle of the field, and then the Hail Mary play. But then like he's due for like that third down drop in a huge spot. Or he was the one who lined up over Jeremy Ruckert and had that penalty. Like a pre-snap penalty in a game where you have 100 yards. That's the frustration of Allen Lazard. For me, like you looked at 2 weeks ago in Minnesota, Garrett Wilson was targeted 23 times. I don't think that was sustainable. And obviously he didn't have that many targets in this game. It was 10. He had 8 catches on 10 targets. I would think he's going to be targeted most weeks somewhere between 7 to 12 times. I also think you could say that's probably going to be the case for Davante Adams. I would think Adams slightly outproduces him the rest of the way, but there's no reason that I don't think that there's going to be some weeks where Garrett gets up over 100, but maybe on average around 60 to 75 receiving yards per week here.
And I think that not only did Breece Hall have the best game of the season, but I think Garrett Wilson did as well. The efficiency, 8 catches on 10 targets. You can see the chemistry between him and Aaron Rodgers are there. I think hearing what Aaron had to say, it was important for him to get Garrett Wilson the ball on the first drive to get him in rhythm. And you saw that catch on a crosser, and he just plants his foot in the ground and makes someone miss and picks up yards after the catch. I think that was important for Rodgers and the offense to get Garrett Wilson the ball early, get him into a rhythm. And then, of course, Breece Hall drops the ball on third down. Can we get an opening drive for a touchdown, Matt, this week?
I hope they do it this week because there was a couple opportunities for them. Once again against the Patriots, this past game against the Bills, there were opportunities for them to get points on the first drive, and they had to settle for a field goal. And it's just a little frustrating because it felt like they were moving the ball so well. So I would like to see that again, and hopefully this time convert with a touchdown here. And something else I'm more confident in too. Like clearly Mike Williams now it seems like the odd man out. On the final play, the interception of this game, him running the wrong route and then falling down, coming back to the ball, it was just so unbelievably frustrating. And, that's something that Davante Adams isn't going to do. So I just think that they'll be a little bit more in sync as an offense now going forward.
Yeah, and Rodgers is not shy to, call out Mike Williams for not running the proper route there. And it's just so infuriating that if he ran the right route, according to Rodgers, it could have been a touchdown or a big play. And you look at the coverage, if you just ran the red line down the right sideline, you never know. It could be a completely different scenario that we're talking about right now. There's a lot of rumors around the Jets trading Mike Williams. There was an update today saying it's not going to happen anytime soon. The rumor is it'll be happening by the deadline. Do you expect the Jets to trade away Mike Williams by the deadline?
I do. I do think they move him. Now, where he goes is another question, but I just don't think that Rodgers trusts him right now with what happened the last 2 weeks. And I think they're just going to want to go 3 wide with Lazard, Davante Adams, and Garrett Wilson. And I think that could work for them going forward. And if they trade him, that could clear up, some more cap space as well. And, maybe you figure some things out with Hassan Reddick, or if not, maybe you're able to get another edge rusher or defensive lineman in here, which I also think is a big need. I'm glad that they, acquired Davante Adams, but job's not done. I think they, also desperately need more on the defensive line because Will McDonald's the only one who's getting any consistent pressure.
Yeah, that was my next question about Hassan Reddick. I mean, new agent, the former agent dropped him after him just seemed like, all right, you obviously are not going to ever accept a 1-year deal, and that's what the Jets want. And we have this new agent, Drew Rosenhaus, who's known to get stuff done. He's very plugged in with the Dolphins, according to TD. He represents a lot of Miami Dolphins players. He is a guy that gets things done, and according to him, Reddick wants to be a Jet long-term, even though we found out that there's still an opportunity to trade Reddick away. Like, do you see a world where Joe Douglas and Drew Rosenhaus figure out a contract extension that Hassan Reddick can agree on, which will be a multi-year deal, to get him in the building this season? Or do you think it's just like it's too far gone? The Jets just going to trade him away, maybe trade for a different pass rusher? Because at this point, we're going into week 7. I don't know if it's ever going to get resolved, it has to get resolved like now. No?
Yeah, I would think if not now, then when is my
Yeah.
question. I know they gave Hassan Reddick and his camp permission to seek a trade, but I just have no idea what team is going to trade for him and give him a multi-year deal. I think Rosenhaus is going to go out there and, poke around with some of his connections, but I think he ends up coming back to Reddick and saying, you probably should take this rework deal, perform well over the final, however many games he ends up playing. Right. And cash in on a contract in the offseason, this upcoming year. I don't think there's any way the Jets give him a multi-year deal. If anything, at the absolute most, maybe they tack on a 2025 to kind of keep it with this window with Rodgers. But I know he could say all he wants, that he wants to be a Jet for a long time, but I don't think they or anyone is giving him a 4 year deal right now.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really understand his philosophy. Them getting Drew Rosenhaus to represent Reddick and having him come out these statements saying oh, he wants to be a Jet. He wants to be a Jet long term. This is where he wants to be. That's just, that's nonsense. I'm not even reading that as taking it seriously, number one. And number two, do we even want Reddick from the standpoint of giving him a long-term commitment? Because the way I look at it, Matt, the Jets are desperate. Obviously, they fired their coach. They're going after Devonte. And yeah, you got to be desperate, but you also got to be smart with your calculations here. What if they give him that multi-year deal and he comes out here and stinks? Have you ever thought about that? He was missed all of OTAs, all of training camp. I don't know the type of shape that he's in. He's not been in game shape. I'm just worried that if the Jets do extend him and he comes in there and he's going to suck and not live up to the expectation. That's my worry.
It's a valid concern because, as you said, you're almost halfway into a season and he hasn't played. He didn't have training camp. He didn't have OTAs. He didn't have mini camp. We have no idea what kind of shape he's in. So there's a lot of risk involved in that. And there's a chance he could get hurt, right? If he's not in game shape, comes in and, has a sore hamstring or, an aching injury, 2 games in, I don't think that would surprise anybody because, again, this guy hasn't practiced, and just getting him and bringing him in mid-season there's risk involved in that. So I get it. I just think, unfortunately, now, he's your best option, and it's not a great option for the reasons that we listed out. There's a lot of risk involved in it, but I don't know what else they could do. They just, I don't think they could win consistently with the pass rush that they're getting right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. And hearing from Woody Johnson and what he's done to this point, it makes me a little more confident than I've been about Hassan Reddick becoming a Jet, just because Woody seems like, you know what, screw it. I'll do whatever it takes to get him in here. That's what I feel like could happen, but we shall see. Guys, this show, as you all know, is being powered and brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook, and they finally, Matt, have the lines for this Sunday night game. It took them a little bit, but now it's on the website. All right, so I want to get your guys' thoughts of the BetUS Sportsbook odds for Sunday Night Football. The Jets are favorited, Matt, by a point on the road. The Jets are 2-4 against a 4-2 Steelers team at home. I don't get it. I don't get it, Matt. How are the New York Jets favorited when they're 2-4 on the road against a 4-2 team?
I don't know. And look, I want the Jets to win, right? Because I want them to get their season back on track. And yes, the Steelers have problems offensively, and they might be having a quarterback change going to Russell Wilson, which I actually think benefits the Jets. I think Justin Fields is a little bit more of a problem than Russell Wilson, but I don't know. You look at, Pittsburgh finds ways to win, and the Jets find ways to lose. The Steelers have one of the best coaches in the game, in my opinion, in Mike Tomlin. And I don't think the Jets should be favored on the road. I don't think this is going to be an easy game for the Jets. I would like to see them win. I think they have a chance to win. But when it comes down to it, the Steelers, they always play low scoring, tight games. And more often than not, they find a way to win because they're well coached and they don't make mistakes. The Jets have shot themselves in the foot just about every single game that they've played this year. So I don't know how anyone could go into this game and be like, oh yeah, the Jets deserve to be favored and they're definitely going to win. I'm not there.
Yeah, listen, very interesting to see the Jets as favorites in this game. Again, folks, if you want to sign up for BetUS, don't forget to use the promo code YouTube150 to get your 150% bonus on your first deposit and then 125% on your next 2 deposits, all the way up to $2,000. Now, there's a lot of interesting bets that you can make here on BetUS. Every single sport that you want right here. Also, they got the casinos. They got everything that you need right here on BetUS Sportsbook. So big time shout out to them. You can also go on the prop building tab and build a whole parlay, which let's see if they have any parlays for the Jets game live that we can build together. Let's see. Yes, they do. All right, let's see if this is going to work out, Matt. What do you think? All right, do they have Davante Adams? I don't think they have him yet. They don't.
No,
because why do I want to take him scoring a touchdown, Matt? Why do I want to take him scoring a touchdown? Who's going to score for the Jets on Sunday night?
I think Devonte definitely, but if we have to go someone other than Devonte, I'd go Breece Hall.
Lazard, I love how is plus 300 when he leads the Jets in touchdowns.
Yeah, that's not bad value either. So if you want to rock with Lazard, I'm good with that.
Yeah, but with Devonte, I mean, watch Lazard go out there and just be like, yeah, I'm going to get 3 touchdowns. Allen Lazard continues to be like the funniest player. I still think every Jets fan hates him. And I think to his credit, Matt, has shown more good than bad, even though he somehow leads the NFL in drops. It's weird. We're going to take Breece Hall scoring, though. All right? And now let's get into the receiving yards. Oh, they don't have that on here yet for the Jets game. No. Passing, do they have? No, they don't. All right, well, for the touchdowns, we got Breece Hall scoring at plus 100. If you guys want to go check out BetUS, definitely go check it out by using the code YouTube150. All right, YouTube150. We got almost 200 people live right now on the AFC East Roundtable. The AFC East Roundtable will be live tonight at 8 p.m., and we're going to be premiering our event recap video. So you guys are going to see everything that you missed. It was a heck of an event outside the Jets losing, of course. So you guys are going to see the tailgate party. You're going to see the live show that we did, us going on the field before the game, and our whole reaction during the game. So make sure you guys stay tuned tonight, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got a super chat from Northeastern Railroads, $5. Appreciate that. As a Patriots fan, we are bad, but at least May looks like the future. You guys are laughable. Old Jets, LOL. I'm glad I'm not a Jets fan. It's pretty laughable that you think one game, you think now Drake May's your future. I wouldn't go that far. It's that's laughable, if anything, Matt.
Yeah, and look, Drake.
How many turnovers did he have? 3?
He definitely threw 2 picks. I don't know if he fumbled the ball or not, but okay, so there you go. Then the answer is 3. Look, and I think May played well. I think you could have every right to be excited about Drake May, but I know a lot of Patriots fans were really excited about their quarterback in 2021, Mac Jones, after his rookie year. Then he was garbage after
Pro Bowl.
Yeah, the Patriots roster is in a really tough spot. If they hit on the quarterback, then it makes the rebuild a little bit easier. But I don't know. I wouldn't be throwing rocks at the Jets yet.
Yeah, I mean, we also completely dominated you, and we'll dominate you again in 2 weeks. So keep that same energy, Northeastern. Appreciate the super chat. Let's get into the rest of the division. I mean, we didn't really break down that Bills-Jets game. I know we talked about it here and there, Matt, but like, do you think it was just a Greg Zuerlein 2 kicks away, we would have won? The penalties, like, what can we take away from Monday night? And also, the last 3 weeks we've lost, but there's so much positives coming out of that, and so much like there's a little bit more attention to details. What do the Jets need to do to start winning and go on this run? Is it cleaning up the penalties? Like, what is the issue here, and why can't we get over that hump? Aaron Rodgers has had 3 straight games in a row, Matt, with the ball in his hands to go try to win, and he's failed all 3 times, whether it's his fault or not.
Yeah, that in of itself is frustrating, right? Like, you bring in Aaron Rodgers to win you those games, and they haven't been able to do it yet. And I don't think Rodgers gets the full brunt of that blame. I think for this one in particular, Greg Zuerlein plays a very big role in it. I think the penalties also play a huge role in it. And the run defense in the first half was absolutely horrible. They buckled down in the second half, and they only gave up 3 points in the second half. But I mean, the Bills were running at will against this Jets defense, and Jets just missing tackles and not staying in their gaps and over pursuing. It's just really frustrating from top to bottom. So while I agree that there were things to like from this game, the improvement of the offense is one of the main things for me that I'm excited about going forward. But when you lose 3 games in a row and now you're 2-4, like, I don't want to have to look for the silver linings. Like I want to be talking about wins,
Yeah.
and like it's been a long time since the Jets have done that. So like, well, it's true. Yeah, there were things to like out of it. Like I'm just tired of having that conversation of like, well, they lost, but at least they did this. I just find a way to win games.
Yeah, and I think especially now they've dug themselves in this hole. There is no room for that anymore, Matt. There is zero room. Like we could talk about these last 6 games and talk about what went wrong, what went right, and moral victories. There's zero room for error anymore. Zero room for error. And I think that this team has come together, and I think that they have an opportunity to do something special and go on a run, because you look at the landscape of the AFC, and we have a game against the Steelers, who are the 5th seed in the wild card run, and the Jets are 2 wins away from being 500. And I think that's very possible. I don't want to look past the Steelers and go right into the Patriots game. You got to beat this game, win the Steelers game first. But we talked pre-show, Matt, of the Jets have 5 games before their bye week, right? We're in Pittsburgh Sunday night, in New England next Sunday. We're at home Thursday Night Football against the Texans. We're in Arizona against the Cardinals. And then we're back home for another primetime Sunday night game against the Colts. 3 of the next 5 games are primetime football, Matt. What's your thoughts of these next 5 games? I know we got to worry about one game at a time here, but those are the 5 games before we can get a rest and kind of allow these Jets to heal up.
Yeah, looking at the Jets schedule before the bye, there's still a couple tough games in there. Steelers are going to be tough, Texans are going to be tough, but you got to beat the teams that you're better than, at least on paper. And like you add Devonte Adams and you improve the offense, like it's really no excuse time. So I think they can't do any worse than 3-2, and 3-2 might not be enough, because you'd still be 5-6 going into the bye, which means like you could maybe lose 1 game after the bye and make the playoffs. So I would ideally like a 4-1 stretch. Obviously 5-0 is the most ideal.
It's happening, baby. 5-0, 7-4, Matt.
7-4 at the bye, and the vibes are all the way back. But I think if you get to 6-5, you could convince yourself, hey, with a strong, second half of the season, the Jets will be right in the mix in the playoffs. At least the AFC, like no one's really running away with it. There's a lot of these teams kind of stuck in the middle ground, and they can't fall out of it too soon. But it all really does start this week. 2-5, I don't think you can come back from.
Yeah, and I think it like right now they control their own destiny, and we're still so early in the season, so it's not like, oh, if you win out, you can make the playoffs. Obviously, if they win out, they make the playoffs. There's like 10 games left. So it really just comes down to like the Steelers are the next opponent in front of us, and they're ahead of us in the standings. Let's all agree the Steelers are not winning that division. I know that they were the team that was leading it. The Baltimore Ravens are going to run away with the AFC North. Don't sleep on the Bengals. The Bengals have the same record as the Jets at 2-4. They can get hot and try to go on a run. We've seen it before, right?
They've done that. The year that I believe they were 0-3, the year that they went to the Super Bowl. So,
yeah.
It's the NFL's weird. Teams start slow sometimes, and then they got to get hot in the second half. That was the Bills last year. They didn't start well, and then they hit their stride, and they end up winning the division again. So, it's about playing your best football in, down the stretch. But again, for this team, they can't afford to go to 2-5. Vibes feel a little bit different if you get to 3-4 and then have a divisional matchup against a team you beat up on once already. If you start there and find your way back to 500 at 4-4, I think you could kind of have a little bit of a sigh of relief.
And another way I think I would feel a lot better off of last night's Monday night's L, rather, Matt, is go into Buffalo and win. And that's not for a while. That's week 17. But I do not want to get swept by the Bills, man. We have split with them the last 2 years. And if we've beat them at home the last 2 years, if we have to go into Buffalo and beat them, we got to do that, man. Like, I love the Bills and Jets matchups. That's like, I feel like the biggest, test of the Jets team in our own division. We played them tough. And that's the tough part about Monday night is you leave that game thinking like, oh, we lost. Like, the Jets played so hard. The Jets played so well, but there were just small little things like the penalties and the missed kicks that ruined that game for me. And it's so frustrating. And Josh Allen, he made the winning plays. So we got to see that. But I want to get your thoughts of Aaron Rodgers in general as a quarterback, right? Because he's gimped up. He's got an ankle. He's got a knee, but he's still playing through it. Like, how do you think Rodgers played Monday night? Like, did you come away impressed? Do you think that he played better than the last 2 weeks? Like, and now we're going to see a new version of Rodgers with Davante Adams. But what's your assessment of Aaron Rodgers as a Jet now through 6 weeks?
I thought he played very strong in the game against the Buffalo Bills. He was 23 of 35, completed 65.7% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, the 1 pick at the end, 294 passing yards, a 99 passer rating. I think the 2 games that stand out to me were the games against the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. Your 2 divisional games. I think that's when he's played the best. Overall, through the first 6 weeks of the year, he has an 84.4 passer rating, which isn't where you would like it to be. I think he's been solid. I think we were a little quick, not we in particular, like you and me, but I just think in general, people were a little too quick to go to the Aaron Rodgers wash after the back-to-back tough games against Minnesota and the Denver Broncos. But I would expect to see more performances like we saw in this week against the Buffalo Bills. And I think he's going to play well down the stretch for this team. They played a lot of really tough defenses early on this year. No one's going to deny how good the Minnesota Vikings and Denver Broncos have played on that side of the ball. And, I'm holding out hope that we can still see a productive year and him landing the Jets in the playoffs at the end of the day. That's what matters the most.
That's all I want, man. It's been such a joy to watch our Mets do what they do with the Magic, but where is it with the Jets, Matt? Like, where is it? Where is it? We got to get Grimace out there? Do we got to get Jose Iglesias to come out here and, like, sing OMG, or someone on the team to make a song? Or I don't know.
I think someone on the team now has to make a song. Who that is, I don't know, but someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it, because I need my Jets to figure this out, man. It's been a long time coming. I also have another question for you. Were the Jets made a mistake? Did they make a mistake of not having Austin Seibert as their kicker over Greg Zuerlein? Because in hindsight, like, say the Jets made that move in August, Jets fans would have been livid, because we remember what Greg Zuerlein did last year. What was he, 23 or 25? He was phenomenal. I mean, Greg Zuerlein was like the highlight of the season last year in a dark season. So I think the Jets front office saw that too. Like, okay, struggling in preseason, he's going to be fine. He's a veteran. And then, like, Greg Zuerlein, if you hit your field goals, we're 2-4. We're 2-4 now, but we could be 4-2. Is Greg Zuerlein going to figure himself out, or is this going to be an issue all season, Matt?
I do think it's something that might be an issue all year. And I hate to say that, but kickers are very inconsistent. He was awesome last year. There's no denying it, but he's 37 years old now. With kickers, it feels like sometimes it just goes, and it goes
37?
quickly.
I did not know that.
Greg Zuerlein, yeah, he's 37 years old, which is tough. It would have been hard to keep Seibert over Zuerlein after the year that he had, but there were signs of this in the preseason. He missed a couple kicks against the Panthers. He didn't look great. Seibert looked like the better kicker. He's a lot younger. He's like 10 years younger than Greg Zuerlein. Some of it feels a little bit of hindsight. But also, like, your job as the general manager is to see stuff like that. And sometimes you have to make those hard decisions and be right on it. It just feels like, he did the easier thing, which was keeping Zuerlein, and it's come back to bite him. And again, maybe that's unfair of me to I'm not saying I 100% blame Joe Douglas for it, but sometimes as a leader, you have to have the foresight to see these things coming down the road. And I don't think they were prepared for that.
Yeah, it's so infuriating, if we're being honest with ourselves, about the kicker situation, because the last thing we need is Rodgers and Devonte Adams and the entire offense to click and the defense to start dominating, and then Greg Zuerlein's missing field goals. Like, if we go out there on Sunday night and play really well, but Zuerlein misses the game winner or something, or misses a point after that hurts us, how are we going to stomach that as a Jets fan base? I don't know, but guess what? It's not going to happen. Greg, your leg's back, all right? Adversity's done. Greg Zuerlein's not missing a PAT or a field goal for the rest of the season. Northeastern Railroads come back with another super chat. I'll be at the Roundtable. I enjoy the trash talking, but it's all love. I think you guys created great content. I'm going to subscribe to all the AFC East peeps. Absolutely, man. Much love to you. Nothing personal when we clap back. It's all love. I mean, listen, the culture we built here at Roundtable Sports is trash talk within the division rivals. So there's nothing wrong with talking your trash as a Patriots fan to the Jets. There's nothing wrong, vice versa. It's all love whenever we talk trash to each other. It's all love. It's all love, Matt. You know that?
It is all love. It's all in good fun, right? Like that's what makes this channel so great is you have all these fan bases coming together and talking their favorite teams, all of them in the division. They're all rivals, so we're gonna get it.
Exactly. Even though I can't stand TD sometimes, can't stand that man. But at the end of the day, and I can't stand that the Dan Mitchell confidence and arrogance is back. That's another thing. Oh man, I needed that. Being next to Dan during that Monday night game was a very interesting experience.
What was the ride of emotions like for the both of you guys?
You'll see it in the recap video we'll premiere tonight, but it was he left before halftime to go to the bathroom, so he missed the Hail Mary, which was funny. But it was just both of us, big third down, and then I would pick it up, and I'd be pissed, and he'd be like, "Oh!" All he's like, we're sitting with Bills fans, like it was a wild dynamic. I mean, Dan and I are boys, so we're not gonna fight, but like we're both, talking trash to each other and getting after it, and Colby was like kind of rooting for the Bills. TD was actually rooting for the Jets in that game, so that's what happened. It was an interesting dynamic. It was when you watch a game next to a friend of yours who is the other fan of the team, it is an interesting experience. And I also have my brother-in-law with me who's a Bills fan right in front of me. So it was an interesting dynamic, to say the least.
That's tough. I'm looking forward to this video. I think it's going to give a good peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Dan did not go on the field. And you want to know why? Because they don't allow non-Jets NFL gear on the field. So if you were a Bills fan, you had to cover up your Bills stuff or take it off. And Dan didn't want to do that. So he went up to the seats, and he was with his girl, he's with his friends, and they went on the field. And we're like, dude, Dan, we're making content here. Get on the field. Like, what are you doing? So we're all in the field. He's up at the stands. I just thought it was funny. All the other Bills fans, like my brother-in-law had a jacket, so he put over his Josh Allen jersey and stuff. But Dan missed out on the field experience. So I called him out on that, though.
You gotta look. If he doesn't want to cover up the jersey, I get it. That's his team. He wants to rep, and
yeah, I get it.
It would have been cool though to have all you guys out there on the field for content.
Yeah, I was telling you pre-game, pre-show, Matt. I felt like I was 8 years old. Like I haven't had those moments in a little bit, right? When you get older and you become mature, it's like you don't really have those starstruck moments as much. But I felt like a little kid. I'm like, especially them full geared. Like you have those experiences, Matt, a little bit at training camp, when you're like really close to the Jets and like sign autographs, especially the VIP section. But it's different when you're there, they're full uniform, especially with the classics. Oh my God, bro. That was my first time seeing the classic uniforms because I didn't really see anything like pregame or anything because I was on my phone. I wasn't on my phone all day. I was focused on the Mets, if anything. And then I just see our classic uniforms, and I'm like 2 feet away from me. The entire Jets roster is on the field. I see Sauce and Rogers do their little patented handshake, and I'm like, and then we sing the national anthem, and my first instinct was like, I'm ready to play. Like, Coach Brick put me in. Like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, give me a helmet. I'm ready to strap up and take the opening kickoff here.
Dude, I was looking at Rogers, like, next to Coach Brick, closing his eyes for the national anthem. The Jets flew over. The fireworks go. I'm, like, on the field. I'm like, I'm ready to die on this field. I don't care. Come out here. Deion Dawkins, I'm lining up in front of you, and I'm getting to Josh Allen, baby. Let's go. But no, man, it was a great time. Stay tuned tonight, guys, for the AFC's Roundtable. We'll be premiering the recap video. But that's really all we got here on the Jets Roundtable. I mean, maybe we could talk a little bit more. The Bills are 4-2. The Patriots have Drake May. We'll talk more about the Patriots next week since we're versing them. But I do want to ask your opinion on the Dolphins real quick because they had a bye week. Is there a world where the Dolphins can figure themselves out? Because they got a game, I believe, against the Colts this week. Tyler Huntley's starting, and then Tua's returning next week. Like, if the Dolphins win, they're 3-3 all of a sudden, right? And then Tua's back. Like, is there a chance where the Dolphins can catch some steam and they go on a run, or do you think they're dead in the water based on what you've seen so far?
The offense is definitely a concern for me from Miami. They had the 20 points in week 1, but that's the only game they reached 20. 10 against Buffalo, 3 against Seattle, 12 against the Titans, and 15 against the New England Patriots. It's been a rough go, but Indianapolis hasn't been great either to start this year. So they have an opportunity. If they're able to get to 3-3, how could you not say that they're in the mix? in this AFC in the division that is just it feels like it's still up in the air. So it's going to be a tough road. I think they have a tougher schedule than the Jets down the back half. Like they got to play the Bills again, which the Jets have to do, but they also have, the Packers, the Texans, the 49ers, and the Jets twice. So it's a tough road, but yeah, especially if they win this game, I mean, I feel like how could you not say that they're still relevant?
I agree, man. We'll see. Well, Tua looked bad when he was healthy. Can he get back? We shall see. Now, we do have, this isn't breaking news. I don't want to do anything, but this is just something that Jets fans just are going to enjoy watching this. Davante is there, man. Davante Adams. Davante Adams. Here he is.
It's beautiful.
All right. I mean, come on now. I also see DJ Reed there in pants. Good to see him there, but he's obviously not practicing. Devonte Adams, there he is, Matt. 17 is wearing. Malachi goes to number 14. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, hopefully no one has a Malachi Corley jersey. That'd be really unfortunate if you watched him play like 3 snaps in his number 17 and then has to change it.
Yeah, I got a Garrett Wilson t-shirt in 17, but I think a Garrett Wilson 17 jersey is cooler than a Corley jersey with the 17 on it, right?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Yeah. Also, I didn't get to ask your thoughts about this. I think this is a good thing to wrap up the show with about the Bills acquiring Amari Cooper. The Jets got Adams, but the Bills got Amari Cooper. Do you think that was a good trade for the Bills, and what do you expect from Amari Cooper for the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I do think it's a really good move on their part. I think they needed help at the wide receiver position. It's asking a lot for Keon Coleman to be, a guy as a rookie in his first year as a second round pick. I think is a really tough ask. And they missed that veteran presence. And I think that, even he's another older receiver too, but still really productive. I'm sure he's going to be motivated getting out of that mess in Cleveland. And I think Josh Allen's going to find him early and often. So, that's a move that worries me. When I saw that come across, I was a little deflated because I thought it was a good move for them. And, we'll see how their connection goes, but I would expect it to be a big improvement for their offense.
Yeah, they definitely needed Amari. I think it's a low risk, high reward. 3rd round pick, swap for a 6th. They're not paying a lot of money. I think it's a no-brainer. So let's wrap this up. But Matt, BetUS just tweeted something, which I find hilarious. Do you know who leads the NFL receiving touchdowns this year?
Is it Lazard?
Yeah, well, he's tied for the lead.
Okay.
I mean, we have Jamar Chase, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, George Kittle, Alan Lazard, all tied for the leaders in passing touchdowns, or receiving touchdowns, excuse me.
Look at that.
Isn't that insane?
That's unreal. Alan Lazard might end up with like 10 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, I think so. And I said last year heading into the season, my bold prediction was Lazard's leading the Jets in touchdowns. Garrett Wilson will lead the Jets in catches and yards. And I seem to be right, but just a year later. Unless Davante Adams goes nuclear and just gets 14 somehow in the last 10 games. But guys, that's going to wrap up the show here. Thank you to Matt for coming on the Jets Roundtable. Thank you to everybody in the chat for tuning in, man. Stay tuned for the AFC's Roundtable tonight at 8 o'clock. We appreciate you guys tuning on in. Another shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this show. As always, make sure you guys use the promo code YouTube150 to get your 150% bonus. Matt, any final words?
I'm back in. This team.
Back in, baby.
I can't quit this team. Back in. We'll talk next week, hopefully after a Jets win, and we can get all excited about a divisional matchup.
We got Matt back in, and I'm back in too, baby. Jets to the top. This is the time for us to go on our run. We're Davante Adams away, and now he's here, baby. See you guys next week. See you tonight on the Roundtable. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and let's go Mets. Peace.
LGM.